Welcome, everybody, to the Making Awesome podcast. This is episode 209. We're going to get a little bit crooked and longer, potentially. So we're theoretically going to be traveling closer to the speed of light, with whose name I have not updated because apparently I'm a ding-dong and have forgotten that. It's not with Reth, it's with Rob. See? Immediate. This is what happens. How you know it's live. We have Rob Mink here from printcepts, the creator of what could be your 3D printer dream or your 3D printer nightmare, depending on if you are a live streamer or not. Creator of the Crooked Crow and also the Baby Belt series of printers. Rob, I need the Backstreet Boys from you. Do you know the Backstreet Boys?
I am familiar with the band. I don't get the reference, though.
Yeah. The who you are, the where you from, the what you did, and as long as you love me.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a terrible joke. I make it every single time we have a guest, and it never gets old for me.
All right. So who I am, I'm Rob Mink. I've been a creator for a while now, working on electronics first and then getting into 3D printing because it's a practical use of robotics. Where I'm from, that a little bit everywhere. My dad was in the Air Force when I grew up, but I've been in Virginia for like the last 15 years, so I'm gonna say Virginia. What were the other two questions?
What you did, and as long as you love me. The last one's technically not a question. Well, what do you do for a living?
I do IT.
Okay.
I own a small mom and pop repair shop in the middle of nowhere, and we do everything from fix failed RAID servers, failed SQL databases on RAID clusters that have failed, enterprise grade networking, running wire, debugging, like going to business and going, why is your network down? I've never seen you before, but I got to figure this out, to helping grandma get on Facebook.
So you're the guy that I call when I have bricked my website and even the domain host doesn't know why.
Potentially. Web stuff is kind of my weakness, but
It's
I
also
give it
my
my best
weakness. You
shot.
could ask my host. We've had to roll the server back a couple of times.
Hmm.
Um, Lo and behold, do not try to update two different things on WordPress at once. It often will crash it, and it will piss off the entire server, and you will have to talk to your host and have them roll their servers back. Fun times. So you do IT. So how the heck did you get into not just 3D printing, right? Because 3D printing is, as far as the average consumer is concerned, it's getting easier, but it's still difficult. You said, F it, I'm going to bump this up a notch and produce my own belt 3D printer and then go down this path of the Core XY that can also traverse to a angled belt printer. Like, how does someone get from running a mom and pop, tech repair business, if you will, to making 3D printers?
Well, I've always had a strong interest in electronics and robotics.
Okay.
Doing a mom and pop shop was a way I was able to monetize that and make a living.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of conjunctionally related. But, I went to college for electrical engineering, computer science. So that's really what I really love doing. And I don't have the best dexterity with my hands. I have essential tremors, so my hands shake. And I wasn't able to build a lot of things because I didn't have the ability to. So 3D printing allowed me to do that. I got a one of those old monoprice Maker Select
The old
printers from.
Wanhao duplicator i3 clones. Yeah,
Yep,
buddy.
yep. The
Okay,
one
so
with the
you've been in this a minute. I see the original photon from Anycubic in the background too. I'm like, all right, we got a bit of an OG over here. We could have some OG chat, which I can't really do with many people.
Oh, really? Yeah, I've
Yeah.
got my A1, my A8 clone, the Tronxy,
Don't
with the clear plexiglass
why
over
would you
there.
why would you still have that?
I turned it into a chocolate printer and I replaced all the electronics.
Wait, so does that mean Ellie's gonna have some competition?
No,
She
no.
throws a mean snowball, dude. You got to keep your eyes on her, man. She'll like just from across the parking lot, right in the face every time. No, Ellie is awesome. So is it like a functionally decent chocolate printer?
I've mainly made 2.5D chocolate with it. I've done some cubes and stuff like that as well. I haven't spent a lot of time on it. Mainly just like doing toppers for Thanksgiving and stuff like that, just as a fun thing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's just a food syringe with a belt over the top of it. So as the motor extrudes, it pulls the belt down and squishes the food out of the syringe, and it keeps the chocolate warm with a motorcycle hand grip warmer.
I love the jankness of some of your projects, right? It's like we could go like hardcore, but F it, this works totally fine. And that's kind of where rep started, right? With like the Darwins and the old Mendels, and heck, even those monoprice maker selects, the Gen 1s did not have thermal runaway support. They did not have proper PID systems. The bed was bang bang on them. And the hot end, if you got different revisions of the boards, had different styles of controllers and different firmware. They were running Marlin. They could have had all of this, but they didn't. That was back when companies didn't really understand how to do heating elements and how to do them safely. So instead of learning how to do it properly, they just turned off the safeties. Because what could go wrong? Ain't it? What could go
Yeah.
wrong?
My monoprice had the Meltzy board with the bad bed power connection, and it actually melted the power input going from the power supply
Yeah.
to it, and it just tried to keep printing despite the fact that it was smoking. So yeah,
Uh, Credit to those printers, they were very difficult to kill. But that's not always a good thing.
no.
And I still have some. It was actually I still have two more. They're the Wanhao variant. One of them I'll never destroy. But the other one will be the subject of a future video where we retest how dangerous is thermal runaway. Because we tried that once, and it didn't go very well, because it was windy enough that the hot end would not get hot enough to melt. But we know it's possible. We've seen it happen, but I didn't want to do it indoors. I'll just keep fire extinguishers handy the next time we try it.
You could do it like in a garage or something where there's not as much wind. But I had a similar problem at Rocky Mountain Rip Rap Festival. Is Justin's like, where do you want to be? And I'm like, I want to be right by the front doors, like lots of attention, lots of fun, see everybody as they come in, be able to say hi to people. And my printers were thermal runawaying all Saturday because it was
So
snowing
it
and
was so
windy and they
cold.
had the doors wide open.
Yep. Yep. That's the things that I mean, as a Floridian, I don't think about. It's 30 Celsius here right now. So 84 degrees Fahrenheit. It's hot. We hit a record high yesterday of 88 degrees Fahrenheit.
In
It's hot
November.
here. And I got to watch adults race souped up Power Wheels yesterday. It was hilarious. Video on all of that coming soon. We do have some lost people here hanging out in the chat. We see Matt German is here, Max H, Madcat USA, Trevor is here, YO Ben. Who else we got here in the chat? James the Printer, Matrix Tech, Mike from Never Let the Machines Win, Little Nepo Muck is here, Reth is here, the person who it was your name prior to me actually fixing it. Uh, who else is here? Bearded Printer, who gave $5 to the stream because, oh yeah, we do provide you guys these streams completely ad-free. So if you don't mind a couple of bucks every now and then, it does go to help the stream out. And if you are listening audio only, this might be one of those that we recommend to actually watch the playback video of, because we are going to be showing some things on screen. We will do our best to describe them. So don't get mad at us if it doesn't make a ton of sense, if you can't see the screen and you're listening back audio only. And if you are listening back audio only, you've missed us by a week. We always trail the audio onlys by a week. But yeah, thank you to Bearded Printer for the $5. Look at that. I start shouting people out. A bunch of other people comment. We got Will IT is there, BLD Design Saxophone Guy, Jason, ND Camera Shooter, TJL, Kieran, sure, might get that wrong, and Kenneth is here. So, Rob, let's talk about this freaking baby belt here, okay?
Okay.
This thing, it is the most adorable belt printer you ever freaking seen. It is so adorable. They are insanely affordable to build, right? And now you can get kits directly from Fabrico and likely coming soon to other retailers, TM, math, and stuff. But you can buy pre-ready to go kits that you print the parts for and assemble it rather than, going to GitHub and probably ordering way more of things than you need and just deciding, well, I might as well just build two, in for a penny, in for a pound, right? So let's talk about this baby belt. So I know you've got a couple. Can we show one on the screen real quick for those that don't know what it looks like?
Absolutely. So I don't have a baby belt here with a screen on it. I have, well, the original baby belt.
Look at how
And
adorable that is.
this was the $100, PTFE over smooth rod,
Oh man.
and
Yeah.
the print quality of these shows the $100-ish price tag.
So that's like the
sorry?
OG, the Gen 1, if you will, right? Or Gen Alpha, probably.
Kind of. I had about 13 versions of the baby belt before I
Wow.
went to the Pro.
Okay.
So that's one of the later versions of the baby belt. The first ones that I released had like cycloidal gearboxes for the belt drive mechanism to keep it nice and compact.
That sounds complicated.
It took some math to figure that one out, some doing.
Why did you go cycloidal gearboxes, dude?
Because I could, and it was small, and it was easier to print than a worm gear, but the quality was not there.
I'm noticing a bit of a trend here. The because I can and I wanted to, and it sounds like it could be fun, not understanding that you were about to open up a pretty serious can of worms on this one, right?
Right. Well, the whole inspiration behind the whole baby belt project was Michael Moriani and I, Autodrop 3D.
Okay.
He was working on a series of automated ejection printers.
Yeah. And those are nice for print farms, right? So they
Mhm.
just kind of do their thing and lather, rinse, repeat over and over again. That's to me where belt printers are kind of like meant to be, in that print farm atmosphere. I am down for the unreasonably long objects, whatever you decide to make. But dude, print farming is like where it is for me. 100%.
So this is a Baby Belt Pro with the wall cleat.
Oh,
So you
well,
can literally.
Pooch from
Mhm.
Repcord is at Maker Faire Orlando, so we don't have to worry about him. So I'll do it for you, Pooch. French cleats, French cleats. So there you go. That one's for you, Pooch.
Yep, and I intentionally designed it so it's compatible with Pooch's French cleats.
Yeah. Wait, are
Yeah.
his like non-standard French cleats?
I think there's probably different sizes of French cleats.
Ah,
I'm not a French cleat connoisseur. So, but I just looked at the size of his French cleats and went, yeah, sure, why not? And so this has the French cleat add-on instead of the screen module on it.
could you do both?
A screen and a French cleat? You could. It's got a little hole here
Yeah.
that you could mount a screen onto. But I haven't done that.
Sorry for
I
feature
haven't made the mount
creeping.
either. So I guess I'll have to do that now. Thanks.
You know. Big thanks to BLD Designs with the 5 memberships. Casey Wood got one, Jason got one, Mr. Scary's 3D Prints, Sly Dog 43, and Gunnar Jones all got one. So thank you for those gifted memberships. So you went through 13 different iterations until that Pro model, and seeing them print, they're pretty darn good, especially considering you're still sub $500 easy on these.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So you're getting a belt printer. What is the average build volume on this?
For the normal Baby Belt Pro, you have an x-axis of about 100 millimeters. I think it's 102.
Okay.
And then the y-axis can move 98 millimeters.
Okay.
And then of course you have the belt.
Yeah. Infinite.
And the height is dependent on the y-axis as well as the tilt of the gantry. These can be set up as 45 or 30-degree belt printers so that your overhangs are not having an issue, or you can print taller objects either way.
Can we talk about that real quick? Because you've got a bit of another trend of I can set the angle to various ones. Why would somebody, and again, like, explain this as simple as possible. I know the reasons, but I know a lot of our viewers and listeners don't. Why would somebody want to have a different angle on their belt, right? Because or on their axes, because you could do the on the Pro, you can do the 30 or 45. Why would you want that option and not just leave it at 45 the whole time?
Well, it comes down to printability and supports. So this is a Baby Belt Pro part,
Okay,
printed in Cookie Cat. It was actually a
it's a
spare
nice
part
color.
for the one that was at Earth.
Okay,
So if you think about a 45-degree angle,
yeah,
this is your overhangs.
right.
So if this will work, this will print.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get an organic shape, like for example, say this horrible slug that I printed, um, this would not work. There's no way this would work.
So
If you did
that's
it
where
this way,
30 makes more sense.
hmm
Okay.
exactly.
But that's going to
Because
require you to completely reslice the model, right? You can't just change the belt or the gantry angle and call it, right?
correct.
Okay.
Because all the belt magic, so to speak, is all in the slicer.
Hmm.
The printer just thinks it's a normal Core XY or Cartesian printer.
And is this I'm guessing you're using either Idea Maker or Kirimoto because those are like the two that are most popular with belt printers. So, which one are you tending to use these days?
I use both, to be
Okay.
honest. I use Kirimoto if I want something quick and dirty at 45. I use Idea Maker if I want to do 30, because um, Kirimoto is having an issue with slicing anything besides 45. I don't know if he's fixed it or not. I do need to check into that, because I let him know about it. But that's that's really what it comes down to. There is like black belt,
Yeah.
Cura, and stuff like that, but that's all really old.
Yeah, it hasn't been updated in a while. And yeah, it exists. It's literally why I didn't mention it because it's like Black Belt Cura, it's not bad, but by today's standards, it's not good. Like,
Mhm.
not even by a minimum stretch of the imagination. It is very, very old, right? It's very old. So, if it was possible, having, Orca Slicer or Prusa Slicer add in belt features would be quite nice, probably.
hmm
Okay, so
But
hi,
that's
hi, devs. I know a lot of you watch the show or listen to the show. We'd like to get some belt support, please, and thanks. Because, like, I have basically no experience with Idea Maker or Kirimoto. And, like, as dumb as that is, that's one of my biggest. Well, I'm going to use the hang up term because you can hang the printer on the wall. But it's my biggest hang up with going over to belts is I got to learn a whole new dang slicer and get proficient at it before these machines can, like, be functioning members of my business. They can be fun toys and all of that, but I would like to prove that you can use a mostly 3D printed 3D printer in a business atmosphere. I think it's possible. And especially when you're dealing with something that doesn't have a large footprint. Like, we've been making really small parts for people. I say really small. They're like, you know, 2.5, 3.5 inches wide. That is perfect. I had to make 15 of them. Now, we had open printers. We put them on one of the Mark IVs in the background there, and they were done in like 10 hours. But let's say one of them failed. And then that failure knocked another one off the plate, and knocked another one off the plate, and knocked another one off the plate. If it's a belt, it doesn't matter. It will just eject the failure when it's done, and then it starts the next part. That's a big benefit of the belt, right?
yes.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah. So when we look at the idea of the baby belt, why go with a 3D printed part rather than like a aluminum extrusion frame? Was it again because we could?
that was part of it. It was also because of the whole prototyping and all the iterations and the aforementioned, I'm not good at actually, you know, cutting things and manipulating things.
Mhm.
So the more I can make the printers do the precision parts, the better the whole product's going to turn out in the end. And the easier it is going to be for people too, because it's not going to be, well, I need this much aluminum, this much pipe, this much this much that. Just, I got a spool of filament. Let's do this.
Okay. How much filament does it take to print a standard Baby Belt Pro right now?
I think about 800 grams.
Okay, so you're building a machine with like sub $1,000, or sorry, sub a kilo. Grant, it's been a day. It's been a couple of days. Sorry. So you're building an entire Baby Belt for less than a kilo, and the Fabrico kit right now is on pre-order at $300. Right.
Hmm.
So you can be all in under 350 bucks. How long do they take to build?
I get asked that a lot, and I don't have a super appropriate answer because I design the thing, so I know exactly how it goes together. It takes me about 4 or 5 hours to put one together at the outside. It's granted I'm always testing new things and stuff like that. I uh
So
I
I
find
would say a day, a
oh
solid
yes.
day.
Oh yeah. You
Okay.
can knock two out in a weekend. Easy.
They don't. I don't feel like this would be much difficult to like go from building one at a time to building two at a time. Right? It's just the same thing twice, and once you kind of get that rhythm in, and traditionally people that know what they're doing, I'll say I'm just gonna double it, and that's what the average person would take. So if it takes you 4 hours, I'd say 8 hours is pretty reasonable. So you could easily get one done your first time in a weekend, and the belt is a little bit different because like I'm used to like I've got a CR30. It's currently buried, but I've got a CR30. Those belts are like a rubber material. Yours, well, it's not.
No. We opted for a cloth style belt. This is the demo belt this is one of the first belts I printed on with the iron-on style, and it's been all over the country as a demo belt. One kid almost walked off with it once, but I use it because it's printed several kilos, several dozens of kilos of plastic on it,
Okay.
and it's an iron-on like jeans material
Okay.
with cotton fabric, and you offset the two seams so that it will form a loop, and away you go.
So you're able to make belts for almost free, right? Because like a yard of fabric is going to cost you what? Even expensive fabric's going to run you like 20 bucks. And you
Oh,
can get how many belts out of that?
at 5 inches wide, 4 or 5 inches wide, depending on if you want to. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot.
So, go to your favorite craft store, go find, a couple of unique patterns, make belts out of them, and have a little bit of fun. Does the pattern on the fabric transfer to the part like an Ember Prototypes plate, or is it just for show and not for go?
A little bit. If you have like glitter in your print, or you have a dark color print with like high contrast, and you print with a white filament, then yes, it will transfer over. Uh,
Okay.
Sorry, my son is trying to have me read signs and talk to him off screen, and I told him that he can't do that. He can't do
It's
that.
family stuff,
Um,
man. Family first. If you got to take a break, I can handle this. Everyone
just
knows I
just
can do solo shows.
just real quick, one
Go go
sentence.
go, go go.
We have a backpack leaf blower. Don't worry about it right now.
Oh, gotta mute yourself when
Okay?
you do that.
All right.
I
Sorry.
want a
What was that?
backpack leaf blower. Did you 3D print it though?
No, no. It was somebody was going to throw it away because it wasn't working, so I fixed it.
What was wrong with it?
The igniter coil,
Of course, every time.
CDI.
Yep,
Yep.
every time. It's like it's always dumb little things. I got to tear apart the motor on my generator. I think the piston might have met the valve, but
Ooh.
we're gonna find out. I can spin it over. There does not feel like there's a lot of compression in it, and then every now and then it stops. when you're trying to turn it over by hand. I can't get it to turn over with fuel. It's got spark. It hurts. It's got spark. So I don't think it has compression. Another day, maybe we'll do like, maybe that'll be a Patreon stream where it's just like, paying members and stuff. We just do like a members only stream, and it's just like, so what are you doing today? I'm tearing apart a motor. Let's have fun. I don't know. It's already broken. Like, it's not gonna break anymore. And now we get to
I,
learn together, and I get to get covered in oil.
I pulled a stupid recently on internal combustion. I know we're diverting wildly, so if you want to stop, hit the brakes, let me know.
No, this is very normal for the show where we just kind of tangent off, so you're fine.
Mm. My daily driver by work car after 230,000 miles with a 2AZ FE engine, which are notorious for burning oil, just terrible engines. I rebuilt it and I put it in the car and I turned to start it and it didn't really want to run. And so I took the head back off because it didn't have compression doing a leak down test, and I left the paper towels in the intake runners.
Well, at least there wasn't crap going into your intake.
Well,
But it was holding
there
the valves
was later.
open.
Oh yeah, I took the head out, took the paper towels out, and I've been driving it around now. It's great.
So what vehicle has that motor?
It's in the RAV4s, the Corollas, most of the Scions. I have a Scion XB, the boxy
Yep.
second generation van thing,
Yep.
and that's my work car. It was in most Toyotas from like 2002 until 2017, all the four bangers.
I've got an '02 Honda Accord with 186,000 miles on it, and
Uh,
it's the J30 V6, so the motor's fine, but it's the glass transmission that's like notorious for burning out at close to 200,000 miles. So when I do oil changes once a year, because I only put like 4,000 miles on the car, it's fine. It uses a quart of oil a year anyways. Uh, I just changed the transmission fluid. I'm like, nope, just gonna do both. It is not worth it. I'll change both. And thankfully, it's not as burned as it used to be, so I will take it.
Awesome.
So, yeah, I feel like this industry of tinkering with printers also brings in the people that tinker with everything, be it cars, gas engines, electric engines. You're the type of people that are like, I can probably fix that, and I bet I can save money. It's going to require $500 in tools, but those tools I can use later on, so that's an investment, and it doesn't count. And I don't pay myself for this, so my time is free too. So everything is free, so I can definitely save money. Ignore the fact that I'm spending 3 weeks doing it, and my dashboard was apart for 3 weeks because it takes almost 3 hours to change the freaking in-cabin air filters on my car, but damn it, I was not going to pay $100 to have the dealership do it.
I feel attacked.
I am never changing the cabin filters in my car again. I am never doing it. You have to remove a structural brace for the dashboard that is the main ground for all the electronics in the dashboard. And so when you remove it, the door locks don't work. And I didn't know that. So I had it kind of put back together because I didn't realize this was going to take as long as it took. It took a very long time. And so I'm just like, all right, I will put it all back together in a little bit. And so I just kind of put it in there, and I go to lock the door, and the lock just goes down and up a little bit. I'm like, what? And then randomly the alarm will turn on as I'm driving. The ground is moving enough that the car thinks it's being stolen. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's fixed now. But I'm not doing it again. I'm not doing it again. It was such a disaster. So I understand. I understand shitbox life problems with cars and buying tools. See, everyone a while back says, why are you changing the oil filter in that transmission? Also, it doesn't have a changeable oil filter in the transmission, so there. But I do have a magnetic drain plug on it, and it does Get me some media. While Ben says tools are always a good investment. I agree, as long as you're not getting them from the thieves at Snap-on. You can go get the Harbor Freight specials. I believe in you. Uh, Magas, I thought we were talking belt printers when this turned to car talk. To be clear, a car is technically a belt printer. Okay, because your tires wear down, which means you're leaving rubber on the road. And what is a car tire other than a big belt? I'm not technically wrong, and I will continue to say that technically correct is the best kind of correct. So back on subject. Where'd the idea of using the fabric belts come from?
We were looking for a cheap belt source. We tried printing on fabric doped with Elmer's glue that eventually cracks.
Oh,
We were using,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm thinking of
We
like
were,
high humidity environments, like that would always be sticky. Just like
well,
just a little tacky.
well, that was the build surface we were going for initially. We like did aluminum foil with a blue painter's tape. We did fire hose. We did
Fire hose. Now that would be cool. Does it work?
it does, but the belt walks because it's woven in a spiral.
Uh, could you do the way that rail cars do it, where it's not a cylinder, it's yeah. Could you do that and keep
Nope.
it from walking or no?
Nope. I even tried some cone-shaped rollers.
It didn't work. Damn.
Didn't work.
Cause like my brother works for one of the local fire departments. That would be a cool printer for his office. I'm just saying that would like if we could get a piece of retired fire hose, which we could get, that's no big deal. Well, now I'm like, all right, how do we like put like teeth in the belt a little bit so that it rides along the track? You know what I mean? That'd be kind of cool. That'd be kind of cool.
That'd be
But
something to visit. The old school baby belts. It works for the old school baby belts. That's why they have the belts the size they are.
okay.
Because I was experimenting with fire hose,
Mm.
and it'll fit the old school baby belts. But the baby belt pros use bigger belts, and so it won't fit on those.
So the nice thing is with this baby belt, though, is that it doesn't technically have to be baby. You showed the XL at 3D Printopia. I'm trying to figure when we saw all this. It was 3D Printopia. And that one is technically tileable. You
Yes.
can make it as big as you want.
Ugh, it's a little heavier.
So what is the build dimensions of this thing? So for those audio only, it's the same thing, just bigger.
Mm-hmm. So this is 100 millimeters wider
Okay,
and
so you're
220 millimeters longer. You can see the tiling here. I can't see the camera if I do that.
yeah.
There we go.
It's all in there.
Yeah, so you can see the tiles in the middle here.
Yep.
In this horizontal stripe, and then the two sides, top and bottom,
Mm-hmm.
are the original two sides, and then these parts up here are just blanks basically. So you can see we just moved the belt motor down.
Yep, you just move the belt motor down, and you have extra holes, but who cares?
Yeah, well, you can print a little blank to fill
It's
that in
for
if you want,
cooling or something.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, same thing on the other side.
Okay. Okay.
So and theoretically, the way this is built is if you want to get fancy with your rollers, you could do as long or as wide as you wanted. And the other major thing about the XL is it uses one MGN12
Mm-hmm.
instead of two MGN7 rails. It still can be, see, this is at 30 degrees right now,
Okay.
but you can still adjust the belt angle, and I've made it a lot stiffer since 3D Printopia. It was very floppy there.
And
So
is that entire MGN12? So that's one of those linear rails with the carriages on it. Is that is that thing providing you with multi-axis support for this? So are you loading the entire cantilevered load on that MGN12, or is there some other bracing to it?
just that one rail
Wow.
for the whole gantry.
And it works well?
I haven't had any issues with it. I just released this for beta testing. I don't even have a back piece here yet. But I've been printing with it, and it's doing just fine. Long-term testing, is still being done. I had this run for about a week, just back, forth, up, down, not actually printing, just moving
Hmm.
around, and it still seems fine. The only thing I don't like is that I couldn't get all four screws in to mount the motors, so I put this little cap piece on just so they don't deform over time.
Hmm.
Like
That's
I
how
said, though,
tight you're really running things. Like the motors are so tight, trying to get all four screws put in is actually complicated.
yes, because
Yeah.
it's the little part right in here that holds the gantries together,
Hmm.
the motors, the belts, yeah. So, oh, sucker's
Uh,
heavy.
Joe
Hmm?
Russ says this is too real. We've all been there, and most of us design and print a replacement part and then worry about the sourcing the replacement OEM part later. Yeah, absolutely. William Steele says I can't wait to get my new baby belt kit. So for those
Aw.
with micro centers local to them, I'm gonna clue you into a bit of something you should be looking out for. Micro centers clearing out of parts, a lot of parts, and we went to the micro center near 3D Printopia and I picked up a bunch of heat beds. They're like Ender 3 S1 heat beds, but they were $5. $5 with a steel sheet, flexible steel sheet, and the magnet,
Wow.
everything. $5. And I said, Baby Belt XL. That's what it's going to be. That's going to be the heat bed for that Baby Belt XL. I will probably even leave the flexible steel sheet because I don't want the printer to print on the magnet. So I'll probably just leave the flexible steel sheet in there because I don't want to rip the magnet off. There's a right way and a wrong way, and then there's the easy way, which is don't worry about it. I'm like, that's perfect. Because otherwise, like, I got to go buy a $30 part. No, go to Micro Center, see if they're clearing out parts at your local Micro Center, buy the part for cheap, and use that as a base to build a Baby Belt XL. Because you can just tile it to be whatever size you need. And theoretically, if you needed to make it a little bit wider, you could just shorten the part and or lengthen the middle section, I guess, to make it a little bit bigger. And
Hmm.
that's the benefit. Really, the only extra thing you have to do is you have to make sure you order the right length for the x-axis, right? The right length of linear extrusion, or not linear extrusion, the linear rail, and then you gotta make sure that your belt is wide enough, and that any of the parts that attach the two things are dealt with for the extra width, right?
The rollers and the scrapers are the really the only things. Because like I said, the middle bracers keep getting dyslexic on the angles. Here we go. And then, so nice, good high contrast example.
Yeah, high contrast is useful for that. And then you're using like looked like you had like a dovetail system to hold it all together
Yes, it
as
has a
well with
little
the
tongue and
screws.
groove.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
It focuses. There we go. Yep. And this is something I'm playing around with here too, is just lots of mods that try to make it as a like pick your own adventure printer. So this is currently in the beta phase where it has a little breakaway panel so you can stick a pie there if you're
Pie.
running Clipper. If you're not, just don't break that panel out. Literally just pops out after you're done printing, and then there's a board to mount a Pico. So
Wow.
yeah, and that's just a little add-on board you just screw right in and can throw the Pico in there.
So you're saying you could have clipperized input shaping belt printers.
Yes. And I'm taking it one step further due to a really silly conversation with Dreams Void. And one late night, I ordered PoE 802.BT power over Ethernet. So you'll
Yeah.
be able to hang the printer on the wall, plug in a network cable, load it with filament, and print.
You're gonna do the entire printer PoE?
Yes.
Okay. Sir, you've hit a new level of Turbo Geek, right? Like, because you own a mom and pop repair shop for tech. So you absolutely have PoE switches laying around. And I would argue that the vast majority of people that would be like, that's cool, have PoE switches laying around too. See, me, I want USB C. The reason I want USB C is I want to do a fully portable baby belt printer. Hi, Mitch, you should do a baby belt backpack. That would be hilarious.
He's heard that dozens of times,
I
I'm
don't
sure.
care. He can hear it a 13th time. Uh, but, like, how cool would that be to, like, start? Like, I'm looking at, like, when we go to shows, right? Start the belt print. And, like, what do you do when you go to shows and to show off, like, something cool to kids? You print big snakes and dragons. That's what they like to see, the big flexy stuff. Start it, like, 2 days early. Start the print way early. Okay? But have the printer on a USB-C battery that can charge while it's giving out power. Take the entire thing with you to the show, print it while you're driving and everything like that. And then you can have this ridiculously long, like, flexi snake or flexi dragon, which I'm fairly certain is how you did some of those at some of these rep rap events. I think that would blow people's minds, and I really do like that.
I I've been thinking about that. The only downside to it is USB-C gives you 20 volts, and those extra 4 volts make a huge difference on the fans.
Put a boost
So
converter.
yep, that's what I'd have to do. I'd have to use 12-volt fans with a buck converter, and then just have the control boards trigger the grounds. But that's the thing that's been stopping me. And I can totally do that.
Doesn't USB-C go higher than 20 volts now?
I'm not sure. The only thing I've seen has been 20 volts, but I can dive further into that.
How much power does a baby belt need?
If you're not using a heated bed, about 55 watts.
Oh. Okay, yeah, sounds smart. You're saying you need a Type 4 PoE++ to get 100 watts. USB-C actually has a 48-volt 5-amp mode to get 240 watts, and apparently Rev-C is 36 and 48. Yeah, so that's what you get with the new USB-C. Yeah, you could just add a... we should probably do a DC to DC converter, so you could feed it 12 or 20 volts. It's like a lot of cheap USB-C PD batteries will only go to 12 volts. They won't go to 20 volts. But DC to DC convert it, no big deal. Like, even 60 watts is not asking a lot. I've got a couple of batteries that will do 100 watts on them. So that would be cool. I'd be down to do something like that. And do you really need those extra 4 volts on the fans? Like, can you not run them just a little bit slower?
It makes a huge difference, especially on the parts cooling fan.
Okay.
Huge difference. And I know this because the OG baby belt I designed, again, cheap, to use Toshiba power cords, Toshiba laptop power cords, because I have
volts.
tons of those, 19.5 volts, yep. And the quality difference between running on a Toshiba power cord versus a true 24-volt power supply was noticeable.
Huh. Interesting. See, now you've got me wanting to try this kind of stuff, right? And just kind of see what we can get out of it. Because, like, I guess the big thing is you can't have a very large part cooling fan because you're functionally limited by how close you can get to the nozzle because of how the nozzle and the belt interact with each other, right?
Right. It's not just that too, but also the we're only using 150 millimeter long rails here.
Yeah.
So if we make the part cooling fan too big, we're going to have conflicts and collisions and
It gets
stuff.
too close. Could you do something like an aquarium pump for a fan and just run a piece of silicone tubing?
You could.
It's weird.
It's weird. I've tried that kind of thing. I haven't gotten good airflow out of it. To be honest, I did it on a tool changing Delta a long time ago. But I don't know. I just haven't had good experience with it. And I think that I could add more fans to the front. In fact, I'd like to add another, like, better parts cooling fan.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just the space thing.
We've gotten so used to companies now also doing a, fan that blows across the bed itself. There's really no reason, and quite frankly, a belt printer gives you so much room to kind of work. You can blow from all 4 sides if you wanted with very little, stuff getting in the way. That would be kind of interesting.
You could
Um,
do an angled skirt blower.
yeah, that's kind of like what I'd be thinking. Oh yeah, because it would have to be angled on the belt. It wouldn't blow across the bed. That wouldn't matter. It would have to. Oh, the mind boggles with like the angles are tough, man. A trig was not my thing. Okay, trig was not my thing. Yeah, you'd have to follow it along that. You'd have to fan that follows along that angled axis, but huh? You get a CPAP blower. Just so much fan. You blow the part off the belt. Who cares?
Yeah, I mean, I've been thinking about toying with them. So I got a little motor right here, so CPAP motor. But it's, so many opportunities. Time really is my limiting factor, unfortunately.
Are you looking for people to kind of help go down that path and look at kind of these esoteric but theoretically quality of life upgrades and features to the baby belt system?
Oh, absolutely. I'm trying to have other people help and, farm out. I have two prospective people looking to be co co-developers. I gave away a kit for somebody to make a really nice manual. Those are all still in the works. Hopefully they will be fruitful. One of the guys that I'm working with, absolutely, he's incredible. He
A good manual goes a long way. Like as a content creator, like it's hilarious. It's one of the reasons like we haven't gone down the positron route yet. Their manual is still kind of, in progress, but they also are working on some quality of life mods that I would rather have in place before we do the stream, because otherwise I'm probably going to run into some challenges where I get frustrated. And if I'm frustrated off camera, that's no big deal. Getting frustrated on camera, big deal. Because it's not it's like it's kind of their fault, but it's also not their fault, and I'm also the average idiot that does a lot of things wrong. So, yeah, always happy to review things and say, can the average idiot, hi, average idiot here, actually be able to review it? Because I think that a good manual is the difference between like how my Voron has gone. My Voron is built, it is running, it is not tuned, because basically, as soon as you get it built, they show you how to do your first test print, and then good luck. I'm like, help? Because, like, I'm used to Prusa kits, and I've done DIY printers from scratch. I have a D-bot that's 400 by 400 by 800 millimeter. So I've
wow.
done, yeah. Don't do that, by the way. Don't say, like, oh, it's only $70 to extend the Z-axis of a printer by double. Don't do that. They get really wobbly when your extrusions are a meter long, and you don't consider that aluminum is quite flexible. Way more flexible than you want it to be.
I made a very large tool changer at my first East Coast River Prep Festival. It was with plywood sides and made out of pipe. It was based on Alex Piper project,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I had meter long 12 millimeter smooth rods in it. And you better believe that thing was about as stiff as cooked spaghetti.
Yeah. So, mine, we use, I'm looking over at it. So, the D-Bot original used V wheels, but they're really, really tiny. Tiny V wheels that go into the 2020 extrusions. And then the rest of it is just held by a triple lead screw array. That's it for the Z-axis. There was very little way to keep the entire printer from like getting out of square. So I used like come-alongs and 550 paracord to tension the entire thing. It's jank as absolute sin, but it works. I don't use it much anymore. It is going to get a new Z axis. The Z is now going to a pair of fully supported SBR 12 linear rails, which are 12 millimeter, then fully supported that fit into a 20 by 160. So it's a 2080 that's two of them put together, extrusion, with a 1605 ball screw.
Holy cow.
Because in for a penny, in for a pound. That was my first time ever smoking a board too. That was fun. It was fun. Nice Duet 2 Wi-Fi. Smoked the 5-volt section
Ooh,
the second I turned it on, but the
ooh.
Duet guys knew it was a problem, and they allow you to move a jumper, and then you can feed your own 5 volts into the board, which I did with a buck converter.
Oh, that's so dirty, but
It's
awesome.
so dirty, but it works, and that's what matters. See, I built that D-bot in 2014. Yeah, 2014, 2015. No. Yeah. Yeah, 2014, 2015, I believe. So, 10-year ago technology. I want you guys to think about that. It was somewhere between 8 and 10 years old. Think about the technology that we were running with back then. The fact that it even prints at all is nothing short of a miracle. Hell, it has a Mix 6 aluminum plate for the bed. It's a nice plate. I paid a lot of money for that plate. That was like $180 plate. And then I put a piece of glass on it because we didn't have magnetic steel sheets back then. So, you know, there's that. Zerner says watching a Grant build stream reminds me of those mobile gaming ads where they keep doing the wrong thing. He's not wrong though. And now I'm getting yelled at saying, the Ellis's guide to tuning a Voron. And yes, that's perfectly fine for off camera. On camera, it is very, very difficult to follow. If I can sit there for hours and just slowly figure things out, great. But when you're on camera, it's a completely different animal. Anyone that streams will understand that you can't just sit there and think for 2 minutes in silence. It doesn't work. You're not allowed. You will lose your viewers. And well, ultimately streaming is a business. And Rob, you can't just stop. You have to keep going. Because if you
Yes.
stop, people go away and people equal money. We love what we do, don't get us wrong, but we can't pay our bills in exposure. I've tried. No one seems to want that kind of money. So, speaking of paying bills with exposure, if you do want to support the channel and what we do, you can do so via the links in that description. You can donate. We would love if you gave a couple of bucks to help keep the streams ad-free. And hey, like the stream while you're at it. Helps the channel grow. And 10 bucks or higher gets you into our private Discord server where we do a multitude of weird things. And you have seen some previews of the upcoming videos that I started filming yesterday and some things we're working on. And the $500 kilo of filament that showed up to my house and the weird stuff we're going to be doing with it that involves pickup trucks. And I use the plural term for a reason.
Interesting.
Yes, it is. So let's shift to getting a little crooked. Let's talk about the IRS. No, let's talk about the Crooked Crow, right? Let's not talk about paying off government officials. I think that's way too topical these days. But let's talk about this Crooked Crow, because
Alrighty.
you go from what is a very DIY-able, affordable. I mean, literally, the retail kit is going to sell between $300 and $400 from Fabrico. And then you go to big, ridiculous, extra axes because F it, Voron 2.4 that can also convert to any angle you want belt printer, aka the Crooked Crow.
Um, yeah. So
Yeah.
the only extra axis that you actually had to add to the Crow in terms of motors is the belt. So if you're already using like an octopus or a kraken or something like that, just plug in the belt and define it as another motor in the clipper config. I have forgotten, or it's not showing up. I don't know. One of those things, what the IP address is for my printer. So I'm looking it up real quick in my router. I think I just found it because it is plugged in and should be good to go.
Oh, you're going to
No,
have it
that's
do the
not it.
traversal? So, for
Yeah, I
those
can.
listening audio only, the Crooked Crow is looking at it, it looks like a traditional Core XY 3D printer that happens to have a belt on it. And that belt for a traditional Core XY 3D printer would be awesome for pretty much any print farm that wants to make the same thing over and over again, but doesn't want to deal with some of the challenges of a belt. You just run it like a regular flex plate, and then at the end of the print, tell the belt to move, and it ejects the part, and lather, rinse, repeat. You now have a clean build surface ready to print the next thing. But you said, well, wait a minute. We've got individually controllable Z-axis motors. We've got belted Z for the 2.4. And as long as I add a couple of ways for it to bend and not break itself, you can now all of a sudden take a Voron 2.4 and turn it into a belt printer, right?
Right.
Yeah. It boggles the mind.
So
Real quick, Max H with the $5 says, loud hey. Thank you, sir. Greatly appreciated. Are we connected? Can we do the thing?
just got it to connect. Yes.
Okay.
So, excuse me. It homes with the BL Touch. I know BL Touch.
Honestly,
But like,
that's fine.
yeah,
It's.
I'd love to get like one of those beacon probes or something like that. But
Do you want one?
I think I might. Yeah.
All right. Let's see what I can do. We'll talk
Oh,
off. We'll
thanks.
talk off stream.
All right. Because I'd love to make one of these either as a tool changer or completely foldable so that you can fold it up and travel with it.
This guy. Oh, I'd like to take the complicated 3D printer and make it more complicated by being a tool changer.
Well, I used to do tool changers. That's used to be my thing. I showed up at ERF 2019 with 2 different tool changers and had Sanjay from E3D come up and be like, "Why? Because F you?" And I was like, "Because I could." And he goes, "Yeah, because F you." It's like, okay. Yeah.
Hey, honestly, that's a compliment. That's
I took it as such.
From Sanjay. That's a compliment. The fact that you met him, I am jealous of that. I've gotten to talk with him. We had that, famous last interview with him, unfortunately, and it's like one of the regrets in this industry that I never met him in person. So that's pretty cool to have him say, yeah, because F you, because he was very much, from what I've learned from visiting E3D and talking with them, he was very much a, because F it, we can do it.
Right.
Seems like you're
Right.
following in that footstep of, we can. Oh, wait, okay, we're moving. Oh, yep, there's the BL touch light. Yep.
We're just doing a quad gantry level. And I don't deserve the comparison to Sanjay. I really don't. He's incredible guy, and all that. Very missed. I regret I only met him twice in passing. So, but
Well, did I tell you? If I told you what we're doing, don't tell anybody. If I didn't tell you what we're doing this year to raise money, I will tell you when we're not live.
okay,
It's
sounds good.
I think you all are going to enjoy it. It is going to involve me once again doing dumb things to raise money, but once again, I don't care.
That's the way to do it.
Well, I've enjoyed this kind of thing. Real quick, BL Touch.
Right.
Is it because it's a soft belt?
Yes.
Okay.
I could have gone with an inductive probe, probably. I didn't know what belt undersurface I was going to do, and this was rushed 2 years ago or a year ago, right before ERF 2022.
Okay.
Or 2023. I had it on my table, but not operational. And so I made it operational, and a lot of because it's what I need to do, move through with it. So the history of this printer is I wanted, there was a gentleman called there is a gentleman called Matt German. He and I were talking about innovative ideas, and he wanted to make a Voron that you could tilt the nozzle of so that you could print overhangs and stuff like that, and potentially even with really weird interpretive slicing, do a belt printer with it. because if you have the nozzle at an angle and you move the gantry like at all crazy angles with the belt,
Hmm.
potentially. And I thought, well, maybe, but what if we just tilted the whole gantry? And so that's this here, and it has finished bed leveling. So I have a Python script as a Clipper add-on and with scripts in the config file so that you can do this.
So you're literally able to just leave one side of the Z okay and take two of the Z and say, go up! And take this machine from being a what appears to be a completely regular and normal Core XY to being a freaking angled belt printer with a Python script. And now the machine theoretically operates as a regular belt printer.
Yes, you do have to run the the G code through a post processor so that instead of moving Z, it moves the belt instead.
I wonder why you would have to have a dedicated post processor for this. It's not like this is like where, those weird math equations, like the guy with 19 watermelons is traveling at 60 miles an hour. This is the kind of thing they talk about in those math problems. It is this type of a 3D printer.
Well, I did have to write using trig
Mm-hmm.
the code that makes it do this. And I know you mentioned before that trig is scary for you.
Look, I have 2 business degrees. It's been a minute since I've done like long division even. Oh, you won't have a calculator on your pocket. I literally do. You won't have a calculator on your wrist. In 10 seconds, I can put a calculator on my wrist. Like, it's terrible, but I've forgotten a lot of the ways to do it the old school way. Because the new school way works, and
Yeah,
the likelihood of us having an EMP so bad, and then me also needing to have hardcore trig knowledge is so abysmally low. It's not zero. It's not zero, but it's low enough that I don't possess the knowledge.
that's it's totally fair. It's not doing the math that was the seriously hard part
Mhm.
for me. It was figuring out how to make the program do it repeatedly
Right.
and accurately without having to go, oh, okay, well, this is solved for this. I had to reverse engineer it both ways. Inverse kinematics is the
Yeah.
technical robotic term, but to make it do that, and literally all it's doing is, and all these files are published on my GitHub, by the way.
Yep.
So if
It's
anybody
all
wants
open
to make one of
source,
these, it's all open source. So if
which we
anybody
love.
wants to, sorry,
I said which we love. We love open source.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, sorry. So using triangles from here to here and the sliding bit here, mainly this axle here, and the offsets here to here, we can say, I want the gantry to be at this angle. So how high do I need to move the motors? And then it taps into the bed level bed uh, clipper extra, where you do quad gantry
Mm-hmm.
leveling and it tells you how much to adjust the gantry and whatnot. So it feeds it into that script then to actually move the motors.
Oh, so it's thinking that its bed is at 45 degrees now.
Kind of, yes. That's how I'm
Okay.
tricking it.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. Why reinvent the wheel when you can trick the wheel to doing what you want? So for those listening audio only, I'm going to try to describe what's going on. We've got a traditional Core XY 3D printer with uh, linear rails on the top of it. So you have 2 for your y-axis, 1 for your x-axis. That is your XY motion. The Crooked Crow also has one on the underside of each of the y-axes. And it has a mount that is allowing it to pivot. Okay. The thing is, only 2 of the 4 corners can slide on that underside rail. All 4 corners have the angle. So when you move one part of it up or down, it will not only angle itself, but it will also move about that y-axis so that it maintains the squareness. I don't know the right term for that, but the squareness of it. But this theoretically brings in a potential issue with actual keeping the machine square because it's not hard mounted anymore. It can move a little bit, right?
Yes.
So
So
cool.
the
So he's just like moving it a little bit, and that's just so damn cool. Just so damn cool.
the back of the gantry, where if it's in belt mode, the point that's pointing down,
Mm-hmm.
that's hard mounted.
Yeah.
So it can go up and down as a Z-axis, but it can also rotate along the back of the gantry.
Yep. And that is
So,
just a little bit higher than the gantry itself.
right, and I
Yeah.
did that so that you wouldn't have to move the motors as much
Mm-hmm.
to get as steep of a tilt.
That allows you to get more steep tilt in smaller printer.
Yes.
Yeah. My plan, do not hold me to this, anybody. I absolutely reserve the right to back out of this. It's recorded, right? You don't even have to write anything down. It's recorded. I reserve the right to back out of this, but I want to build 2 Voron 2.4 350s. One of them I want a Crooked Crow. And that way we can compare right next to each other. How is print quality? How is farming with it? Is this something that you could even go into multi-axis printing? I'm looking like people like Brendan builds. Things like that, where could you benefit from moving mid-print to do a tough overhang that would be a disaster to print otherwise, but is now very simple to print? Those are the kind of things that I want to look at. That's where I think it could be very interesting to look into the Crooked Crow. Because if you don't lose a lot of structural rigidity with that extra MGN rail, there's no reason people should not do this. Because you gain so much more flexibility, literal flexibility, with your machine.
I really don't think that it loses
Yeah.
any
Hmm.
structural stability. I'm doing this and I'm seeing the belt itself and the linear
Yeah, I'm
rail
seeing the table move,
Well, the
right?
table is very
Dude,
janky.
I have the same thing, right? Like when we ran the Magneto X on my table, we just ran it as fast as we could. They're like, it's shaking so much. I'm like, no, that's the table shaking. The machine, rock steady, barely moves at all. Table, not rock steady, moves a lot, but it is powered up and down, and that's what I wanted. So
Yeah. So you're talking about the non-planar slicing and stuff like that. It's totally a thing. I have not invested the energy or mental time to figuring out how to do that with a slicer. If someone else wants to do that, um, secondary wish list for Orca slicer maybe, you know, that would be totally a fun thing.
I think so. It's like that's. I'm literally getting a headache trying to think about how we would do it. It's like, how would we do this? John Olson's like, Grant making Vorons again. That's a lot of streams and a lot of cuss words. He's not wrong. I struggle with Vorons. The next one, I'm gonna do a joint stream.
Sounds
I'm
good.
gonna do a joint stream with somebody. I don't know who yet, but one of the Voron guys I'm gonna get to volunteer. It'd probably be Steve, because Steve's awesome and Steve and I are friends, so it works out. What the heck is that?
This is the body for one of
Oh, it's a drag racer.
Scott's drag racers. This
Yeah.
was printed on the Crow behind us. It did
Oh, it's
have
a
a little
single
bit of a
piece.
yes.
Yeah.
It did have a little bit where it first came off the belt because it didn't have the output rollers perfectly done, and I need to tune my retraction apparently because did not make it the roll cage. But I figured it would be fun. And you were asking about transfer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you can see the tiny little sparkles on the bottom here.
Yeah, there's a little bit of glitter in it.
That's the glitter from that belt.
Eventually, that will all be pulled up, though.
Yes,
But,
yes, and you can very faintly see little stars here too for the
yeah,
belt. Mm-hmm.
that's
And
cool.
if in case anybody's wondering, That's the seam there in the belt.
Yeah, that with any belt printer, you're going to have that. You will have a an obvious seam. There's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, but it's
Um,
it's not it's not a showstopper, I don't think, by any
no,
means.
no.
So
When you realize that that is made in one piece, all of a sudden that little seam of the belt, and even that little bit where the rollers weren't perfect, it doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. No one's like, we are our own biggest critics, right? Like, I am more critical of myself than the comment section most of the time, and that's, y'all are pretty damn critical about some stuff. Although with like the recent cheaty tech stuff, I am less critical of myself than some of you in those comments. Some of you I think are just being mean. Um, but like, dude, if you're gonna sit there and nitpick that and not enjoy the fact that it's a one piece print, you're just being a jerk to be a jerk. But so you have rollers for the Crow too?
yes,
Okay.
I have. I got somebody gave me a set of rollers, an Idea Maker set of roll output rollers a while ago, and I just kind of slapped them on there. At Raven Motorsports gave me a Creality output roller set too at Earth.
You got a set of
Super
those
cool.
too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
Rain
awesome.
Rain was the one that clued me into the Micro Center deals. He got those
Oh, Rain.
sets of rollers. I think he got like 9 of them for $1 a piece. $1 a piece. I gave him the dollar bill when he gave me the rollers. So I told him that I would put it on something you know, put it on something fun. I don't know if we're gonna use it on our CR30. We might do it for a baby belt, a crow. I don't know. I probably don't need it for a baby belt, honestly. You're probably not doing crazy long parts. You're doing like flexi dragons and stuff. That's what I would do with a little baby belt, because it's the most adorable thing you ever did see. It
I
really
I
is.
want I want to get around to having the time to print a sword off of it, like a master sword or something like that. That's on my list for those because it's like, the prop thing to print on a belt printer.
Yeah, swords definitely fit that mark, if you will, of what do we print on belts? Long things like swords and swords and
Flexi
swords.
Flexi snakes, flexi dragons. I must have given out 50, 30 to 50 flexible snakes, MacGyver snakes at 3D Printopia.
Kids love
You
them.
know.
It's
Oh
easy.
yeah.
It looks cool. And belt printers, especially when you haven't seen a belt printer before, it's like, wait, what? You know? And the Crow to me is like literally the best of both worlds, right?
Right. It just needs a tool changer. Now, you laugh, but I've been talking to a guy, really super cool, really smart guy, that came up with a way to do a tool changer with only one extruder motor. It basically unloads the filament and you have the hot end. So the whole tool carriage is literally just a fan and the heater, or the
Okay.
hot end. And so when you dock, it opens up the extruder so the pinned filament path can go into the extruder and then it loads it again, all in the docking movement.
Why bother though?
So you don't have to have like 5 motors, one for each extruder.
I mean, at that point, you've already added an extra motor for the belt.
Hmm.
What's the big deal?
I wouldn't have to add another control board to this to do it.
Are you running an octopus? Like, what are you running
Yeah.
for? Okay.
I'm running an octopus on this, and all 8 channels are currently active to
Oh,
run this board.
okay. So you're out of drivers.
I'd have to add another control board. And that's the thing is that a normal Voron takes 7 channels. You have the 4 for the Z, you have bring it up to 6 for the XY motion, 7 with the
The
extruder,
extruder.
now 8 with the belt. So I would have to add another control board on
Do
to
they
make it a
make
tool
ones with
changer.
more? It's like, does the Kraken have more?
Kraken is also 8, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if anybody makes more than 8.
Hey, Luke, Big Tree Tech. Let's do it. And let's just let's just call it Corbeau. Let's call it the Corbeau, which is French for crow, I believe. Right?
Maybe. Well,
Fairly
that's
certain.
I'm not a huge linguist. I can barely manage to string together sentences in English. That's not my
It is crow. I'm right. Yes.
nice.
Like I'm fairly certain Corbeau in French is English. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Yeah, we got to get one with an extra 5 drivers. Or do you want 6? How many drivers do you want? How many extruders do you? Look, you've got the opportunity. We can, and I'll clip this and I'll just send it to Luke. How many extra drivers do you want?
Maybe make it 12, bump it up to 12 from 8.
F it, go to 12. Nah, 15. Give me, give me 15. Well, 16, right? Go from 8 to 16. Double it. Double it. Luke, Big Tree Tech. 16. We need 16 motor drivers on a single board. Ignore the power requirements. We need 16 motor drivers or a way to have an add-on for extra motor drivers. So a way that we could just plug in somehow and it would then give you another board with extra drivers. So
We You
yeah,
could just do USB with Clipper and add a second control board in.
but that's boring. Apparently, Nathan's saying that there's an Octopus Max that has 10.
Oh,
So that's a 3 tool changer. Ideally, 2 is like the bare minimum because you
yeah.
do dissimilar support materials, right? That's the huge benefit of all
Hmm.
that. Um, Tool headboard frees a driver in Octo. Yeah, that's fair. But then you gotta, God, that's just like all those pogo pins. You have to deal with all the wiring and
You seeing the advantage of that one
yeah,
extruder motor tool changer?
it's cool. But I'm like mentally gymnasticking how to, because really the issue is it's loading and unloading the filament, or somehow opening a door the filament can come out of the extruder completely without having to unload it. Like that's the challenges. If there's a way to do that, great.
Well, I'll send you a link to this guy's YouTube when we're done with this. I don't have it easily available. Sorry, my contracts and my camera is way off. But
You're fine.
he literally has it like he rebuilds a Bondtech dual drive gear system,
Okay.
and he leaves a filament in the melt zone of the hot end, and
Mm-hmm.
he basically like pulls the gears apart, and then he has the filament pinned on the top and the bottom, so it kind of goes in like a cartridge and comes out like a cartridge.
It's very similar to what I would think, and I guess the bond techs are just open. You can see them moving. That
Yes.
makes sense. I was thinking like a
Hmm.
door to keep it shut, but bond techs, because they're the hobbed gears, they'll keep the filament aligned. So,
Hmm.
huh?
Super smart guy. Uh,
God, I have
but
I knew this. I knew this episode was going to give me a headache from just having to think through. It's not a bad thing, to be clear. I don't use my noggin all that much like this, you know? Like, I'm used to just figuring it out as we go, but this is, you really have to plan ahead for this stuff.
yeah,
That's
so
just,
here's
the traversal's just so cool.
well, thanks. I
I would
actually it's
literally just build one of these to do nothing but make it do that all the time. It doesn't even need to print. The fact that it can do that on its own is awesome.
well, see, this is I did this so that I could show you something actually.
Okay.
So currently the x-axis
Mm-hmm.
is the riding axis, and the carriage goes back and forth on the x.
Okay.
If we were to rotate that 90 degrees
Mm-hmm.
so that the y-axis goes back and forth and the carriage goes, or sorry, the y-axis goes back and forth and the carriage goes up and down on it,
Yeah.
then we can put all the tool changing parts on the side.
So like Pio Poly Magneto X style where it's 90 degrees out of phase from what you would expect. It's like
Right.
the Magneto X, you would expect it to home somewhere on the front, one of the two corners. No, it's back corner.
Hmm.
Why? I don't know. And the extruder, you would expect to be looking at the front of the extruder. No, you look at the side of it.
Hmm.
Um, because they have a rectangular build volume, right? It's 300 by 400 by 300. That's
Hmm.
not a very common thing anymore. We have a lot of machines that are square or square enough for Prussias. Um, but they did that so they can get the most out of the 300, and you could extend a little bit on the 400 and still get it to 400.
Hmm.
So, yeah, you would only have to do it on the one side.
Right, because if you kept it this way and did it as a tool changer, either the heads would be back here and they'd hit the belt as you went down, or if you tried to eject a print, you'd have the risk of the
Smacking the
the
tools.
tool heads, yeah, hitting the print, or as you're printing at an angle, the tool heads could fall down.
And it's not. So, I guess in my head, to do a tool change, you would traverse from 45 to 90, do the tool change, then go back to 45, and the tools would be up at the top, like, doing like an SV08 tool changer. Oh, I wonder, could you
Yeah,
modify an SV08 to be a
probably.
crow?
I think Bill Steele was talking about doing that at Earth, but I wouldn't mount the tools on the frame.
You
I'd
would
mount
want
the
to mount it on the
tools on
rails.
the gantry.
Yeah, that
So
makes
that way you didn't have
sense,
to adjust the angle to do the tool change.
right? And you don't risk any issues of like, oh, it's not exactly the same angle again. Your baby stepping just isn't perfect.
Right.
Man, now that's, and it's not that big of a deal because it's a static load. That extra weight, it's a static load. It's no different than if you were moving the Z with filament on it, right?
Right.
The
Right.
machine's not going to care. I think the one thing you might have to start to worry about eventually is making sure that you don't put too much weight that when you turn off the power, the axis doesn't fall. But there are ways to stop that.
Yeah. Oh, with the gear reduced Voron Z drives, it
Yeah.
takes a lot to backfeed those.
Oh, the Z's on the 2.4s are gear
Yeah.
reduced. Okay.
Well, belt reduced. Yeah. There's a belt reduction and then a second belt reduction for the Z
Oh,
axis.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
probably fine. That's probably fine.
I think for Crow 2.0, if I do make a folding Crow, it will be less Voron based.
Like positron crow.
Well, full disclosure, I am a very inactive member on the Positron dev team.
Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah, I've seen a couple of the meetings. I've only been in it for like a month or two, um, but I haven't even built my Positron yet. I've been waiting to do that before I get really more involved.
I really want to build one. I think they're cool looking machines. Like, is there a major point to it other than its portability? No.
Portability, it doesn't take up a lot of space when you're not using it,
Yeah,
too.
it's insanely compact. It's insanely portable. Did it have to print upside down?
It
No.
was, well, it made it much easier to make it that compact.
Yeah, made it much
It,
easier, and that's the trick. The trick is, even though from a technical standpoint there are a lot of challenges printing upside down, it makes the thing you're trying to solve, how compact something is, much easier to solve. And that is literally the point. The upside down is not the point. That's a side effect of the point.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the effect, not the
I'm
cause.
surprised
Yeah.
Nomad isn't here making fun of me, so, he's he is always hanging out in the streams poking fun at me for no reason, so, I guess Amber and Mad Cat will have to do it for him. Joseph Carr says you aren't even sacrificing Y because you have the belt. Yeah, traditionally
Mhm.
with tool changers, you sacrifice some of your Y axis for all the tools. You're not doing that because you have the belt. Would you sacrifice anything with a
If you
belt
did
tool changer?
a little bit of build volume in terms of verticality, if you put it on the end of the gantry,
But on the
a
side,
little
the way that you're thinking.
a little bit of the X. You'd lose a little bit of the X.
But you can simply account for that in the initial build of the machine.
Right.
Yeah.
Just make the
So,
belt narrower or the gantry wider.
huh. Like, this is just, it's a lot of, you really don't look. So wait, why do tool changers do them on the front then? Why don't they
I
put them on the
guess
damn sides?
I think they put them on the front so it's easier to manipulate and work with, and that's way
Hmm.
too because the tool changer needs to be aligned with whatever way this rod faces.
Yeah.
And for most printers, you want the tool head to be accessible on the front so you can get to it and work with it, if it's on a shelf or something like
Yep.
that. And so that's therefore the front makes the most sense.
It's also probably the easiest from an engineering standpoint too. The Prusa XL puts it on the back. They did that so you don't eat into the build volume. You just extend the back of the printer a little bit, and that's fine. I guess technically you're eating into the build volume, but they designed around it. And
Right.
even that is not a perfect system, right? We've seen people with failed tool changes. I've never had where the tool came off, but I've had where it failed to dock properly, and it has a whole sequence for that. It's like, oh, failed the dock. It will go to repark the tool, pull itself away, go back in and try to lock it. If it fails more than a couple of times, I think it will pause and alarm you, be like, hey, I need help, kind of thing. Yeah, tool changing, belts. Yep, that's a fun post processor for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's it's fun. I haven't played with a tool changer recently.
Mm-hmm.
The last tool changer I've played with was a belt tool changer that I had at Murph 2020, 2022, something like that.
Okay.
Um, and it didn't do great, but with all the advancements of tool changers recently, I think I want to give it another shot.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of companies, obviously Prusa pushing their tool changer. I think the whole SV08 tool changer group, that to me is super cool. Because, like, SV08, it's a 2.4 that is all the hard work's done.
Hmm.
Is it? I wonder if it's as reliable as a 2.4. That'd be interesting. But like, I look at and see that you're one of the people that are kind of pushing the bleeding edge of what we're doing with filament printing, right? You're saying let's ignore convention. Just because it's never been done this way doesn't mean there's no reason not to do it this way, right? You look at it and
Yes.
say there are benefits to this and the downsides are minimal, right?
Right.
Really, the hard thing is making sure that the post processor works, which is kind of cool.
Like I said, I never built this to be a non-planar printer. I built it so that I could have a belt printer or a tool or a auto ejection core XY. The non-planar is just a bonus.
It's the
And
side effect, not the goal.
right,
Yeah.
right. But I don't have the time or skills to program a slicer that can do non-planar like that.
Yeah.
I really don't.
I 100% agree with you on that. I don't even know how to program. Literally. So I'm of no value in that. I struggle with Arduino programming. I've never tried Python, you know.
Well, I mean, the code that this runs on really isn't. It's like a page or two of custom code I've written for this thing.
It will look like the
That's it.
Matrix to me, I promise you. It will look like someone is running through the Matrix. Reth said, Draft Shift are the people behind the SV08 tool changer. They also do the stealth changer.
Okay.
So, I don't know. They might be kind of cool to bring on this. I'm just saying. They'll be done with the SV08 tool changer at some point. They'll need another project. Draft Shift. Like, that one, write that one down. It's like, I want, to me, you basically provided the best of both worlds, right? If I don't need a belt printer, I can set it up vertical or horizontal and run it like a regular Core XY. But every now and then, when I do need a belt printer, I can run it like a belt. And so
Right.
the user gets to choose best of both worlds.
Right. And as an added bonus, you get auto ejection on your standard Voron.
Yep. Yep.
If your print can survive being auto ejected, which most can. If you have a very thin, spindly print with a lot of supports, maybe it'll have an issue.
Does it
If
just
you
get
just
like
put it,
caught, like the scraper isn't tight enough against the belt kind of thing and it fails that way?
more if you print something like a business card, like for example,
Oh, real thin.
this might have an issue if it's still very warm when you take it off. Like for example, I didn't let the bed cool and I screwed up the corner here. I
Happens. Yep.
warped it. So imagine that, except it's on an automated process. You absolutely have to have it cool down first. Otherwise, you're going to warp your corners. Um, and if you have something that's very long and very thin and spindly and your supports are not all connected, it has the potential of possibly breaking the part in the middle as you auto eject it.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen it happen, but I can, I'm sure it can be a thing.
I dig it. We have a question from the chat. I'm not certain. It doesn't
Mhm.
actually relate to this, but it said, what happened to Velo 3D printers? Nothing? Why? Why are you asking about Velo? Velo does like hardcore metal. I guess they're making job cuts, but their stock is up. So I don't know. Rau, I don't know. If you can a little bit if you can explain that a little further, that would be great. Um let me see. Someone had a question earlier up as well. Was something about how do you deal with how do you deal with different angles on the belt? Is that just inside of Idea Maker you set the belt angle and you're good to go?
Uh, I think that's a multifaceted question. I'm not exactly sure what part of it he's asking about. The gantry can be set to any angle with a G code command
Mm-hmm.
that runs a script, and then you just need to move the gantry down so the nozzle's on the bed.
Got it.
In the slicer, you can set the angle that it slices at. So the combination of those two of making sure the gantry's at the right angle and the nozzle can reach the bed, and then giving it G code that's sliced at the appropriate angle, and you're good to go.
How many times have you messed that up and like instead of 45 you did like you fat fingered a 44 or 46 or something?
That not as much as testing the strengths of the Revo nipple nozzle heat break.
Oh no. How many have you broken?
Only two. The third one that's on there is a little crooked.
Well, I mean that kind of fits the bill for the machine. So
I have two more that I bought from Repcord over there ready to go in case something happens.
I'm sure
But
we can get E3D to send you some too. We'll talk about that after stream, because
alrighty.
especially because you're playing in open source, you're doing something really unique. I think companies should be sponsoring these projects. Like I really do. I would like to see companies getting behind this because you're playing in full open source, right? So anybody can do it. I love that like Fabrico jumped on for the baby belt.
Oh my
I would
gosh.
love at some point to see a Crooked Crow kit. Because like, what extra does it need other than a couple of extra rails, some bearings? Not a whole lot else extra, is there? A different Revo, right? You need the nipple nozzle or the non-planar nozzle. Call it the nipple nozzle, okay? It's way funnier. Um, you know, we could do that stuff.
Oh
But like,
yeah.
what else? What else does a Crow actually need from a regular 2.4?
It needs the belt drive motor, which is a planetary gear reduced NEMA 17.
Mm-hmm.
It needs, like you talked about, the extra 4608 skate bearings.
Yeah,
It needs the two linear rails, and then it needs a hot end or carriage that can support printing at angles so it doesn't have physical collisions.
those are
And
a lot of that is just printing. Hardware specific, it's like
that's it.
8 parts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
It's,
much.
no, and that was the intent of building it on a Voron, is that I've already got a frame, I've already got a setup. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's just modify it. And that's, Voron, I'm pretty sure, is Russian for crow or raven. So that's why I called it the Crooked Crow, because, it's a Voron mod.
Yep.
Yep.
Yep. And it works perfect. I mean, the 2.4 is literally the perfect platform for this. Like it is handing you how to do the bulk of this on a silver platter. All you have to do is do the 10% that takes 90% of the time.
Like I said, throw a couple pages of custom code at it and, 5 custom catted parts and handful of parts, physical parts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's and that's what makes it fun. It's just the fiddling and the testing and the just trying new things.
Reth is saying that LDO, Fabrico, West 3D, and KB 3D all support open source projects for reference. So since you're already working with Fabrico, might make sense at some point to do like a Fabrico kit. We could look at Big Tree Tech to do custom boards at some point. That's not even outside of the things that they do. They have their own eddy current sensor, which is pretty affordable. I think it's like $25. The real beacon's a little pricey, but it's open. Is it open source? It is special because it does both nozzle probing and eddy current sensing. We'll see what we can do for that kind of stuff, because I want to see this thing moving in the right direction. It as I said on camera before, and I'll say it again, I am intrigued and terrified at the same time. I want to see this thing come to life, but I am in no way, shape, or form confident enough that I could do it right now. I have exactly zero confidence in myself that I could do this right now on camera. No chance. And so I'd love to see it be closer to I'm going to put air quotes on finished product, because I don't know if projects like this ever truthfully get finished. They just continue to get upgraded. But like, the instructions have some fit and finish to it. The code has some fit and finish to it. That even the average idiot, hello, average idiot here again, could understand it. And I am happy to review things and look at it for you and say, do I understand what's going on? Because I will tell you, I don't want to do a bunch of like prior research to building something. If it's not in the manual, it shouldn't matter to me. And everybody seems to disagree on this, but that's how I've built printers for years. It's how I built the D-Bot, and the D-Bot worked the first time that, we didn't accidentally blow the 5-volt rail on the Duet, but it worked the first time. My Prussias, by and large, worked the first time, unless I order the wrong kit, but that's my fault. It's not Prussia's fault. To me, that's where I think a good kit and a bad kit are fundamentally different. It is all in the documentation. It is in the descriptions of everything. Bonus nachos if you have a video of yourself or somebody that is a multi-camera angle setup that is just doing the build in real time, so that someone who is doing it themselves can follow along, and you chapter out the video properly so that each step, because like, dude, if there was a way for me to see the belt routing for that Trident from a video that Steve himself did, I could zoom in and look at it and see how it was done, rather than try to have like 30 people yell at me in the chat about it. That would have gone so much better. If you watch the video that Steve and I did, yeah, he still beat me by like almost double, but I got it done in 30 seconds. I spent almost an hour struggling on camera. And that to me is kind of the difference. And that's where we get a lot of the newbies that want to play at the fringe end of things, but aren't immediately comfortable, but could be made comfortable. It's in that documentation.
Yes.
And you got a guy working on that, right?
I have a version 1 build manual, which I was told was okay.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Friedman, I think, made Baby Belt Pro V1, and he had an issue with it because of rail alignment, which is very fixed at this point. But he didn't seem to mind the manual that bad. He said it was better than a video, and he liked it and he was able to build it. So the version 2, 2.5, that they're building the manual for, it's going to be like one of those wiki manuals, like the Voron level quality. So I've been told. Actually need to send him a part because he has a wrong part,
Happens.
so he can finish. I just, but
It's
it
life.
should
It's
be
life.
a great manual. I have a decent manual on a Google Docs right now, so I don't think that that's as much of a barrier to entry. But again, I design the thing, so I can't take a step back and forget everything I know about it.
It is the hardest thing to do. Like, even
Yeah.
as a business owner myself, and you know this is a business owner too, it is so difficult to look at your business or your project or whatever through the lens of the buyer. It is like, that is a skill that people that have that skill can make 6 figures a year easy. It is to the point that it is so difficult for business owners to do. It is the number one reason that businesses failed is because they don't understand their target customer persona. They
Hmm.
don't understand it. They don't know. And it's okay if you don't know, but you have to work to figuring it out. You know who your target persona is for this. It is the turbo geek that is built a Voron, that is confident in it, but wants to play around with the fringe, the little bit of different, right?
Hmm.
And they're willing to go through some challenges along the way because they love what is the end result, which is something that is unique and not seen anywhere else, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
dig it.
It's it, it's the challenge of something new, something different,
Yep,
something fun.
yep.
Yep. And
Zerno
that's
sent a laughing lemon emoji. I don't know, but thanks for the $5, dude. Appreciate it. Um, Toolful's got a question for you. He said, "How is strength affected when you're losing some layer squish at an angle?" Are you losing layer squish at an angle? I don't think you are.
you're losing. Well, layer. No, you're not losing
Yeah, I
layer
don't think you
squish.
are. Because
You
you're
you
you're
don't.
still getting it. It's just it's like this, not like
Hmm.
this. It's at a 45. You're still squishing. It just I know it doesn't make sense. I know it doesn't make sense, but you still get layer squish, promise. Is
Yes,
it
yes, you do.
is strength affected at all? I don't know.
Depends. So in
Okay.
some cases it's stronger. In some cases it's weaker.
Mhm.
It's all how do you orient your layer lines?
Right. Right. I've got some parts that we've been doing I could talk about this. There's no NDA, and in fact, if this all works out, you're going to have a really cool video and white paper we're doing on this, but we've
Ooh.
been making some custom tennis racket handles for a professional tennis player. I don't want to say his name immediately, but it's not one that I immediately recognize, but dude is super cool. 2 weeks, 9 prototypes, 9 different revisions in 2 weeks. I did it all myself, which is not something I normally do. But they had literally the dude came by at 10:30 this morning. We went live at noon to pick up the final prototype so he can drive to Boca Raton, Florida, because he starts his tournament on Tuesday and wants to get some time on their courts to see how the courts react before he goes to his tournament. A belt printer would have been perfect for these parts. It would have been perfect for these parts. And a printer that could do both would be even better. And one, and I'm upset, it's 100% my fault, but anytime that we have like rush jobs, I always run extras. Always. It is better to have extras than not enough. And unfortunately, pretty much all of the extras failed.
Mm.
I screwed up. It was 100% my fault. I did not properly shut this room out from the rest of the house for air conditioning, and the PETG warped up like crazy on the Prussias. It worked perfectly fine on the XL because the XL bed doesn't move. But the Cartesian, that was a big fail on the Cartesian. A belt printer would have been perfect for this. It would not have needed any support material. It would have been beautiful. That would be a perfect use case for it. And if I told the guy if he wins, he owes me a little bit of money still. I said, if you win, you don't owe me any money. But if you lose, just pay the rest of the bill. Bring a trophy back. Because now we designed something in 2 weeks that won a trophy.
There you
And
go.
that's worth the extra money here. But it's just like one of those things where that's where a belt printer could have actually really helped out.
So what if you're okay talking about it, because I know it's uh what layer line what was the layer line reference in terms of uh the actual racket? Like,
Oh, I laid the parts flat. So rackets are octagons, but they're
mhm.
not normal octagons. They are asymmetrical octagons. And tennis rackets are done by sizes. Okay, so a size 0 is 4 inches in circumference because that's useful. And every size up is an eighth of an inch extra in circumference because, again, that's useful. It's not useful. Tennis, your system for racket handle sizes sucks, and you should feel bad. It's a bad system, and you should feel bad.
That does sound like a major pain.
It's terrible because you can't just scale it because it doesn't scale equally because it's asymmetrical. So you have to go back all the way to your first freaking dimensions in CAD and change each one of them a little bit. I'm not salty about this. It's fine. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Everything's fine. But no, I laid them down so they were long, right? And relatively skinny. So I cut them in half, lay them down. We used I still have some very small printed pins. So it was a mortise and tenon style for it to go together. And that was just for alignment. They I offered them chemical welding. I'm like, I will, give you chemical welding agent, but they're like, JB Weld and super glue was what we've been using for years. Works great. And we were able to make a handle that, according to this individual, is pretty darn close to handles that are costing more than 4x our price.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, sure, we spent way more money in the initial prototyping, but now can make them for way less. Now, I'm not going to state how much money we're making them for because
Oh, yeah.
it is my understanding that the individuals that we worked with are going to go into business doing these for people, and we're going to be the printers that do it, which I am totally
Nice.
fine with. But like that's a perfect example of like it had just enough of do I have no, I just have the failures. I don't have any of the raw pieces handy. It was just enough of a bridge that if you didn't put support, it would droop a little bit, and they didn't like the squish that came from that. And that's
Mm.
exactly where a belt would have completely obliterated everything.
Right, because you'd only need just a little bit of support at the beginning or just print the end of the handle first,
Yep.
and then it would use the rest of the print as, wow. Yeah.
Yep. And I just don't have a functional belt printer at the moment. So, and like, if we were going to be doing that stuff for them long term, that's what we would be doing. And, they were talking about how Roger Federer, that's like the big, he's a big tennis guy, I assume. I probably got the name wrong. You'll know who it is if you're a tennis person. They bring 10 rackets to every single tournament per day.
Wow.
They get the strings redone every single day, whether or not they use the rackets. The handles get remade, whether or not they use the rackets, because things like humidity, temperature, barometric pressure can change the way this stuff works, and consistency is key. I'm like,
Wow.
I like if you're just going to be, using these once or twice, then getting new ones. That's a great business model for me.
Oh yeah.
And now if we can get a decent recycling system going for it, send your old handles back. We'll recycle them. We'll give you a discount on the next ones.
So speaking of recycling,
All
I
right.
have an idea that I haven't done much with yet, but I work with Joshua Taylor, JRT 3D. He's
Mm-hmm.
a friend of mine.
Yep.
I have one of his recreators
Yep.
right
The
there. Yep.
pultrusion.
Pultrusion fun size, whatever he calls it, little teeny tiny when I wrote the firmware for it, better firmware for it. So we're having fun with that. But that got me thinking about all the bamboo poop and all the failed prints and everything else. Currently have to shred it. You have to put it in a extruder, worm gear it out, all that. What if you're to take a engine piston liner and heat it up as a big pot, basically, full slight vacuum on it to pull the air bubbles out, and then squish it out the bottom?
You're trying to create printer centipede, where it eats its own poop, right? This is
Well,
where we're going with this, right?
the working project name is currently the Waffle Stomper.
Please call it Project Centipede. Please. And just make human centipede references. God, that's a terrible project name. Neither of those project names are good. That is an internal only project name. Do not Google that word. if you don't know what that is, don't Google it.
Well,
It's an interesting concept, but there's one problem.
mm-hmm.
A lot of people use bamboos for multi-material.
Right.
And that's where it won't work. Now you have some copolymer of PLA and PETG that doesn't work well, theoretically. I've never actually tried mixing them, but I know they don't stick to each other when they're printing. So I'm not certain how they would stick together inside of as Zerto says, sounds like a fancy crucible, which is what it is. You're just building You just happen to be a guy that likes engines, so you probably have, piston cylinder liners laying around that you could turn into a heater. Buddy's gonna pick one up off the floor, isn't he? He's gonna pick one up. Yeah! Wait, what motor's that from?
This is from a diesel tractor.
I was gonna say, that's not from a regular car.
Well, it fits a Chevy small block V8 350 perfectly.
It's a little long.
Yeah, it's a diesel, so it's a little longer.
Yeah, it's got quite a bit of stroke in that. What's your cylinder stroke? Yes. What's your cylinder bore? 350.
So this you can get about 1.5 kilos out of in one go.
How are you maintaining diameter though?
Well, that's something I got to figure out. The extrusion speed, how fast you push it, will determine diameter to a certain extent, and also how quickly you spool it.
You guys should talk with Tim Elmore over at Philistruder.
Okay.
Right? Pretty sure. Yeah, talk with Philistruder. Because they have winders. And that's,
right.
You could easily integrate a winder from Philistruder into what you're doing. Yeah, this is kind of weird. I'm not gonna lie. I worry about because my bamboo, I use the AMS pretty much exclusively for filament failover at this point. Or I'm too lazy and I just get 4 options. I don't do multi-material with it. I have a Prusa XL. There's no point.
Right.
The XL will walk miles around it in terms of speed when you're talking about any amount of tool changes. But yeah, I can see the value to this. When we were making our own filament, we used a paper shredder, but we took it apart and flipped the teeth around. So the outlet was actually the inlet, because the inlet on most paper shredders is really small, like made for 10 sheets of paper. What if that was your outlet and it would just keep grinding it up until it fit out of that? Now,
That's
to be
clever.
clear, it gets way more dangerous when you're feeding things in from the other side. Then we decided to print a flywheel for it so it could handle bigger parts, right? So we, because it had a 300-watt motor, so we stuck it was on the Wanhao duplicator i3s, so, old school. That was, had a bunch of hex holes in it, so you could put bolts with lots of hex heads on, lots of hex nuts on them, and we could bolt that onto the end of the motor. So the motor, it would take a while to spool up, but she had some inertia, and so you could get through bigger parts. I never said we were good. I never said we did this correct. I said this is how we did it, and it worked quite well. But now there's like this made with loop people, who still claim they're real, have invited me to Boston. They're not financially helping us, so I will be there digitally. But they invited us to Boston on the 23rd for their open house thing. But it's very similar to what they're doing, where it's kind of an all-in-one. You guys are melting it instead of grinding. You're saying
Yes.
we're going to melt it straight up, right?
And that way you can just, drop not even shredded parts just right in too. Yeah. And that's why it's important though that it's a pressure vessel, so that you're not polluting the air in the room as you cook all this stuff basically. And your PET or PET G, whatever, because you could throw soda bottles in there too. It doesn't oxidize and crystallize with the air. And then also so that you can pull a vacuum on it to pull all the air bubbles out.
How do you, so what, you open the chamber, put crap in, close chamber, pull vacuum, heat, send it. How do you keep the air from coming back in through the extrusion hole?
When you pull vacuum? That's a good question. I haven't figured that one out yet. Maybe a little silicone cap or something.
I'd be curious. I think it's a cool system. I think we need better ways to recycle in this industry. Like, especially if you could like take old plastic spools, recycle them, turn them into film. Most of them are like PCABS, which is like, I hate that material. It's the worst of both materials. It's the smelliness of ABS and the warping of PC. It's the worst of both worlds. I know people like it. I don't. But,
Just a fun concept. I haven't really started with it yet, but
well, I certainly know some people that could help you out along that way. So, and I'll say that for most anyone that is watching, listening, if you've made it this far into this episode at this point, and you are working on a project and you are stuck and don't know what to do, you need someone that knows a thing. You need a person, right? You need the I know a guy, or I know a person. I'm that person. I'm the person that knows people, and I am happy to open doors for you. I pride myself in opening doors for people. It's what we like to do here. We'd like to help people move down the line with their projects and continue to do cool stuff. That's what I want people to do. So, if you are at that stage for whatever reason, you can reach out to us. You should know how to do that by now. If you're on episode 209, you should know how to do that by now. Wild Ben says, Grant owns crowbars. I own a few crowbars, one of which I broke a tooth off of recently. Wow. I didn't think that was going to be possible, but it happened. I was trying to take apart a Volkswagen transaxle. I want the case.
Okay.
Empty transmissions make for really good 3D scanning targets, like for practicing. And since they don't change, they make really good standards that you can measure off of. And so you can basically verify any company's claims about their scanners, whether it's, you know, here's an Artec Eva, right? Like it's $20,000 hand scanner. Artec claims a certain level of accuracy. Okay, let's find out. Uh,
Absolutely.
but it's so dirty that even like undiluted industrial grade degreaser, I can't get it clean. And I'm upset because it was theoretically a working transaxle before I took it apart. And I might have forgotten it outside during the hurricane. And it's not going to work anymore. It's very rusty. But that's okay. I didn't have a use for it. It was always going to be a core. Its entire goal was to be a core. It was a I think it was a bug transaxle because I have a 3-rib bus transaxle now. For a project that was supposed to be a secret but isn't a secret anymore. That I might not be finishing. We'll see. Anyways, yeah, so I might be trying to find like an old automatic transmission because all like where the balls go through, that stuff's super cool to scan. So
Yeah.
yeah.
The maze in the bottom.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have time. I have one more quick fun idea, but
What do you
if
got?
we need to wrap, that's cool.
I don't care.
Okay, cool. You know how the bamboo printers, you plug the AMS in, it goes, oh, I see the AMS is plugged in. They have that 4-pin connector on the back. What if we were to make it so that tool heads, sensors, stuff like that, because Clipper almost always on a single board computer with USB ports, do the same thing where we expose the USB data pins and 12, 24 volt, 5 volt power, so on and so forth. And then when you plug it in, you have a script running in Clipper or whatever, not in Clipper, but in the actual computer that reads the ID of the hardware that's plugged in, says, hey, I've seen this device. Do you want me to download the installation script from GitHub or whatnot? It does it. And then the script will say like, hey, this is a runout sensor. Which extruder are we putting it on? Or this is another tool head, so on and so forth. And it'll give suggestions and then say, do you want to add this to your printer.config?
It's like a better GUI for setting up Clipper, basically.
Right, kind of like USB for printers with power built in too.
Yeah.
Because CAN bus, I don't know if you've ever set up CAN bus. That is a pain in the tuchus.
No, I've been told not to do that. Yeah, there. I have said this many times, but our Discord server is very honest with me. I love you guys, but y'all a little mean sometimes. They're like, do not do this, Grant. You struggled with regular stuff. You're gonna have a bad time. So yes, I am aware that CAN is it is all front-loaded pain for lots of back-end joy. That's a terrible way to say that. Well, we're gonna clip that. I don't know. The editor's gonna use something out of that. William Steele, which I'm assuming is Bill Steele, says, "Rob, let me help you." So
Okay,
you know.
sure. Absolutely. You know how to reach out to me, Bill.
So the chat runs about a 8-second delay. So now I'm waiting for everybody to
I'm gonna have to rewatch this with the chat because I'm just in the streaming software. I'm not watching the live chat.
Oh, you gotta watch the live chat, man.
Ah,
No, you got to. Just make sure you have it muted. Otherwise, you're gonna hear yourself on like an 8-second delay. No, the live chat's half the fun. Yeah, William Steele says, Rob, please let me help you with lots of exclamation points. Now, Ricky Donatali, I always get his name wrong. Rick says, my brand new P1S completely fell apart after 3 months. It's on its way back for replacement. That's a bummer. See, if you could go with plug and play stuff, that might make life easy.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. CAN is a lot of work. But,
yeah, I bought a Voron 0.1 Dual Dragon, which is a IDEX Voron, and it uses CAN bus on tool heads, and it had a PNY SD card in it in the Pi. And anybody that's done a couple Clipper builds knows that those PNY cards are on borrowed time the second you open them out of the box.
And just assume that whatever micro SD card comes with your machine, break it. Take it out, clone it, break it, throw it away. Don't put it down. Oh, I'll use it for something later. You're not going to use it for something later. It's going to rear its angry head when you don't want it to. Throw it away.
And I didn't even get the joy of most PNY cards when they fail, they go read only.
Yep.
No, this one just went full dead. So I lost the config file. It's a custom printer. I didn't make it.
God.
So it was definitely a crash course in how the heck does CAN bus work? Oh dear gosh. You know.
William Steele saying CAN is crappy area network, USB is utopian serial bus. So you're basically building, your idea is to build a plug and play that auto recognizes what it's hooked up to, and that would just do it kind of based on, you know, what? Some sort of resistance system?
No, it would read the USB ID that's in the chip. Every USB device, when you plug it in, it has a vendor code and an ID code. And the way that a computer works is when you plug in something, it goes, okay, this is from this vendor and this is this device. What driver will work for this? Oh, it's just a generic mouse. All right, let's throw a mouse driver at it, and do the exact same concept except with 3D printing peripherals. And then let the people that make, or whoever's in charge of the repository, or whoever's in charge of the project in that GitHub would have an installation script and their own drivers, so to speak. And it would go, okay, this idea, I need to, this is the link for this. You'd have a database of this ID goes to this GitHub, basically, a spreadsheet.
I like
And
this. See, this takes the pain that Grant doesn't like out of printer building. I love the mechanical side of it. That's fun. It's the wiring. It's the programming. That's pain for me. This makes it maybe not painless, but certainly lower pain.
right. So you know those like USB power strips, or the USB bars where you can plug in a whole bunch of USB ports?
Yep.
What if you had a USB hub like that, except it had its own some sort of connector that had power in there with it? So that you want another tool head, you just plug in the tool head with a pre-programmed, boom, it's there. And it doesn't have to use the power, or it doesn't have to use the USB, but it's there available so that everything can plug in as it wants to.
I'm assuming it's Bill Steele, right? William Steele. It's got to be Bill Steele, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. I can't imagine there's another William Steele spelled exactly the same way watching the channel, so I'm going to assume it's Bill. Bill is saying, yes, have each... It is. Okay, great. Have each device inject its own MCU.cfg into the printer.cfg. So
you could do that.
My only request to this would be that you make it possible for those of us that run air-gapped printers. Because if it can't be air-gapped, I often can't easily use it.
Even during setup, or just...
ITAR, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We technically have a non-secure network, but I have it limiting its speeds on both sides so much that it is effectively not useful at all. But like, yes, okay, so Bill says, yeah, the base CFG can be on the actual device. Yeah, like that would be ideal. And then when you buy the products, they have all that stuff on a little tiny, ROM chip? That's not even difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it is a little bit difficult. It adds a circuit board to something that might not traditionally ever have a circuit board. But I would say that people that look at Vorons and say, I don't know if I want to do this, the wiring can often be that pain. Because if you get the wiring wrong, you burn up hundreds of dollars of stuff. If you use the wrong extrusion in one place, often you'll figure that out a couple of steps later and you can undo it and fix it. Right? And a new extrusion, even if you break an extrusion or, it hits you in the head and makes you bleed on a live stream, it's cheap to replace. It's not that big of a deal. Boards, no, if I burn up my octopus or whatever it is on my trident, no, we're done. Right? No, nope. I'm not. There was so much pain wiring that printer to begin with. It's not easy. And if you could make that side of it easier, I think we would certainly lower the barrier to entry for Forons. That would be awesome. And of course, the modding community, because it becomes a lot easier. That's super cool.
Thanks.
How far along are you on that? Or is it just an idea?
I've written I wouldn't even call it a white paper, maybe a one-sheet Google Doc, that I put on my Twitter feed like 6 months ago after Rocky Mountain, because that's where I cooked up the idea,
Okay.
talking to some other people. But that's basically as far as I've gone. Because again, time. I work my rear end off on my day job, and then this 3D printing stuff is literally a hobby I have in my spare time.
Yep.
So I would really love to move forward with this stuff faster, but I don't have the time availability to do so.
I get it. I get it. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. You got a lot of great ideas, but really what you need right now is you need the right people to assist you in carrying this football across the line here, right? With that one, I don't think you're at the 1 yard line, right? I think we're a little bit further back, but with the right team of players that can get through whatever defense has going on right now, you're able to score pretty decent points on this. And lowering that barrier to entry, I would do a dedicated episode on that. I would do a dedicated main channel video on that, because I still think that's the biggest challenge of Orons. It's the wiring. The mechanical side, it's easier than a lot of people think. The wiring is just as hard as most people think it is. And as someone that's like, I've built Tesla coils, and I still struggled with that wiring because it's tedious. It's incredibly tedious. And like when I couldn't find the wire loom. Why? I don't know. It was underneath another printer. I didn't find it until after I'd done all the work myself. Well, I made my own loom using some Tech Flex. I needed to get another cable through that. That's not easy when it's just a cylinder. It's not a split loom like it came from Voron. So, yeah, I would love to see that. I think you're working on some really awesome things, Rob. You're an underappreciated maker in this industry. You make some really cool stuff, and y'all got to give Mr. Rob Mink with printcepts some love, because you all, if you don't know much about his projects, one, you're missing out. Two, you gotta assist where we can. Part of this community is about helping each other out. And if you have some of the skills that you believe could help Rob, you can join their Discord. It's go to printcepts.com. It's all linked in the description. You can join their Discord, get involved, be a part of the future for what 3D printing could be. Because while I've talked with a lot of people that have bright futures in mind for 3D printing, a lot of those are more on the imaginative side and not so much on the, yeah, no, we're actually doing this side. And Rob, I think you're a lot on the, hey, we're actually doing this, right? Crooked Crow solves the, I only have space for one printer. Do I get a belt printer or a Core XY? Rob says, ¿Por qué no los dos? And everyone goes, hey! Yeah, Rob, you're literally the meme. You're literally... We should get a bunch of people to reenact that meme with you. That should be the thumbnail. Core XY or belt, ¿Por qué no los dos? I should change your interview thumbnail from 3D Printopia to that. Mad Cat, if you're still watching, mark that for the editors, because I'm gonna forget by the time I'm done with all my outro stuff. Yeah. Tag Andrew and see if he can do that, because absolutely that needs to happen. That's a much cooler thumbnail than I think whatever one we have now. But dude, seriously, you are a hell of a community advocate. You are doing some amazing things for this community. And I think people should give you some more, you know, attention for what you're doing. So seriously, no, your work is tremendous, right? You say that we shouldn't compare you to the work that Sanjay's done. You're doing similar where you're, instead of following everybody else making another bamboo clone, you're saying, "Hi, I have a Komatsu D355A and I can blaze my own path. Don't tax me unreasonably." And you're sending it. And I love that. I love that because you're saying, yeah, we've done it this way for all this time. Let's do it a different way. So yeah, I think it's totally fair to compare you to Sanjay because I think you are following very much that same method of F it. We'll figure it out. And I dig the hell out of that. Is there
Well,
anything you
thanks.
want to leave the folks at home with? Any, you know, final thoughts and stuff?
Just keep trying things, see what works, see what doesn't. Uh, the old quote, inspiration is sorry, invention is 1% inspiration, 99% perspiration. And I love that Killdozer reference you just put in there too.
Little Marvin Heemeyer action for you. You know, there's a personal story I'll tell you later about it that involves a bulldozer and police in my life last week. But
Ooh,
it was not me. I didn't do it, although it would have been a lot of fun if they let me drive the bulldozer. Um, Anyways, as a lot of you know, we're going to do our sign off now, but stay because we're going to give away some filament. Here's the deal. This filament better go to build some baby belts. So the winners, I want to see you build baby belts because I'm going to give you enough filament to build a baby belt. So I want to see you. I recognize I'm giving you a $20 roll of filament and expecting you to spend $300 on a kit. But don't lie. You wanted to do this anyways. You just need the excuse. So here's your excuse. Tell your significant other that Grant from 3D Musketeers says you need to build a baby belt. And you got this roll of filament, or you're going to buy a roll of filament so you can build a baby belt. You're welcome. So stay tuned. That is all we have for you all today. Rob, do you know my outro?
uh,
It's fine if you
no,
don't.
no, I don't.
Okay. Stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. So then we stop the recording. We stay live. So what we just did, that's what goes out audio only. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now we give away some filament.
All
So
right.
there's a pinned comment link, pinned chat comment thing. Enter if you haven't. 42 of you have entered. So give you another 30 seconds or so. I think we give away, I don't know, 2 rolls. 2 rolls good? You want to do 3? I don't know. How many rolls? Up to you, dude.
I hope you're asking me.
Yeah, I'm asking you.
Oh, geez. 2 or 3 rolls. 3.
3. All right. Give away 3 rolls.
Okay.
And I would normally do one of them with Elixir, but we don't want to make a baby. Well, maybe you could. Damn it, now I want to try. I might make a baby
Elixir.
belt out of Elixir.
Is that like a silk?
Yeah, but there's some special stuff in it. It is TPU and PLA, but it's special.
Oh, is this the new printed solid
Yes, Printed
silks?
Solid's our filament sponsor, so we give away Printed Solid filament.
I'm so sorry. Okay, cool. Yes, I've heard the elixirs are much stronger than standard silks.
They are. They're considerably stronger than standard silks. They're not as strong as like a regular PLA, obviously, but yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
could you make it out of a PETG? Could you make a baby belt out of PETG?
Yeah, I've made baby belts out of PETG.
Sweet. So,
And
all right,
and
plan on that.
yeah.
Winners,
Okay.
you get PETG because I want you. I mean, get PLA if you really wanted it, but I want you to build a baby belt with this. So I think it'd be
Yeah,
cool.
you can make them mostly out of PLA if you want. Only really the only part that really needs PETG is the part that supports the belt of the bed, the heated bed.
Oh, okay. Most people have random bits of PETG. All right,
Yeah.
fine. We'll give away 3 rolls. Should they all be Elixir? Should we allow them to get Elixir, Rob?
If they
Or do
want
we
to, I
only
guess.
give one as an Elixir?
Dealer's choice, or
You're
I
the
guess
guest.
not
You get
dealer.
to choose.
Let's do one elixir and two
Okay.
standards. All right,
Last one gets to be elixir. Everybody else gets regular PLA or PETG. Sorry, elixir's more expensive. That's what it comes down to. I don't want to just like I don't want to Oprah Winfrey elixir over here. All right. Because then I get yelled at. It's funny. You know who yells at me at Printed Solid?
Chris.
Nope. The guys in
Hmm.
shipping.
Oh,
The guys in shipping yell. They're like, you're shipping out so much filament. I'm like, that's the idea. Like, yeah, but it's a lot of filament. Uh-oh. I can see people that can't do math. Guys got to do better with math. And I know that I had promised to start shipping more filament out on Friday, but I need a new code from Printed Solid, so I'm waiting for that. So I'm hoping to start shipping everything out again on Monday. I got 44 people entered. I'm going to shut off the giveaways so I don't get like a bunch of random extras. All right, let's spin our Wheel of Doom. If you're outside of the United States, you will either get a shirt when we get all that figured out, or we will get you the value of a shirt to the Sanjay Mortimer Foundation. All right, let me make sure. Now I got to see, did the person do the math right? Because I scrolled through and I saw the people didn't do the math right. And I got to make sure they haven't won already this month. That's the other fun one. Where are the names? It's always hard finding people's names on here. See, this is where it gets boring. Jody C. Yes. Jody C., are you here in the chat? If so, you win a roll of Printed Solid, PLA, or PETG. Let's see who we get next. I know this person hasn't won because I don't even recognize their name. Let's find their name. Sorry, this is the worst part about it and this is why we actually end the recording for the audio only. Gilbert Nar, if you are in the chat, you win a roll. And last one qualifies for a Jesse or a Jesse's elixir. If I am lying, I'm dying. Bill Steele. It's Bill Steele wins.
awesome.
I am using Wheel of Names. It says William Steele on my Wheel of Names. Bill, I swear, if you didn't get this math right, you got the math right. We're good. All right. Winners, contact me on Discord, Twitter, Blue Sky, I guess. I don't know. And I'll get you the filament here in the next couple of days. Thank you all for coming out. We're going to go have you hang out with Mr. Steve Builds here in just a bit. Thank you for supporting. Go check out Rob Mink with Baby Belt. Link to him in that description. Rob, dude, thanks for coming out. Thanks for hanging out for over 2 hours. We've been
Thanks.
chugging. I told you before, man. I ain't stopping the train if we're continuing, you know. Things are fun. So,
Thanks so much, Grant.
all right, y'all. Enjoy. Go have fun with Steve. I now have to edit that so when we end, everyone goes and hangs out with Mr. Steve Builds. Let's add the redirect. He's working on a FizeTech 0.2 kit today.
Nice.
And I will see you in his chat. Take care, all. Have a good one. See ya.